Our grand total was $10,994.66. To another video. Welcome back to my channel, or should I welcome myself back to my channel? It has been a really long time since I have posted on here. I think I'm just trying to get the channel started at a really bad time of the year. I'm always trying to start like in March and April and May when it's really busy. There's lots to show, but it's almost too much to handle for me because I am really bad at technology and I don't know, videotaping and then editing it. It's such a huge learning curve for me. So I'm gonna try it in December. We're in the first week of December. I'm gonna try recording now and kind of get in the groove of things, and then hopefully we'll be able to film a lot more of next year's growing season, which will be season 2 for us. So my name is Tamara and I am the owner of P Street Flower Farm. We're working on a name change and probably rebranding at some point. I don't love the name, and we're gonna be probably moving out into the country onto a farm. So P Street, P stands for Paoli, that's the street we live on. So it won't even work. So anyways, thinking of new ideas. But anyways, that's who I am. We are in southern Wisconsin and we are zone 5A. Today in this video, I wanted to talk about something that people don't really love to talk about, and that is money. So I don't always find it appropriate to share income, to share and tell and talk about money, but I think it's one of those things that people just don't talk enough about. And so people don't really have real world references when it comes to starting a business or starting a flower farm. What the input actually looks like, because starting a flower farm, there actually is a lot of input and you can start a lot smaller than I did, but there is going to be some need to put in some amount of money. We do plan on growing relatively slowly because we do plan on building this flower farm debt-free. We were actually able to get out of all of our personal debt about 3 years ago, and that's actually what allowed us to start this business. So all the numbers that I talk about are going to be numbers that came out of our pocket. We did use a credit card for certain periods during the summer just to get points, but then we paid those off right away, so we didn't accrue any interest. We do have a zero balance now, and we have a little bit, well, we had a little bit of what we made from the flower farm this past summer, but that has already been spent. That will be another video. So this is actually going to be a 3-part video. I'm going to talk about our growing year expenses, and then I'll talk about in another video our growing, our first year growing income, and then I'll talk about goals for the 2023 growing season. So these numbers are our first year here. These are real numbers to the penny. I have categorized things into 11 different categories, and I'll start with the least expensive category, and then we'll move our way up all the way to the most expensive category that we experienced excuse me, this year on the farm. So we'll start with the total, and this is a big number, and just know that I'm giving you these numbers so that if you are looking to start a small business, or if you're interested in flower farming, that you can kind of see, wow, these things, the categories on their own don't really seem that outrageous. But then when you add 11 categories together, and some of those categories you're spending thousands of dollars, it does add up pretty quickly. Now, there are some things that you may have that I didn't have, or there may be things that you choose not to invest in, like education, the first or second or third year. But I do believe that anyone who is starting a flower farm will need to invest in some of these things at some point in the growth of their business. So without further ado, let's get into the numbers. Oh, and let me share one more thing. So I decided that our fiscal year was going to start on 11/1, so November 1st, and go all the way till October 31st. So some of these categories are actually going to include things like tulip bulbs and ranunculus that won't show a profit until the 2023 growing season, but because of the way you need to order them online and the time of year you need to order them, those expenses are going to be included, even though I won't have any revenue from them from the following year. But I'll get into why I have separated my fiscal year from November 1st all the way to October 31st of the following year, and not doing it January to December. But you can do your year however you want. The other thing that I should mention is a list of the things that we already had. So we live on 0.8, so just over 3/4 of an acre in the town of Verona. We're located in southern Wisconsin, so we already had that. We also already had a portion of our yard fenced in, so we didn't have to put up any of that fencing. The woman who lived here before also had, she really liked the outdoors. She was an avid gardener, so we had a ton of shrubs, perennials, daffodils, lilac bushes, bleeding hearts. We had a ton of already established plants on our property that we were able to use as part of filler or other things to sell during the year. And then we also had access to a rototiller that we could borrow. We had gas cans. We already had like mallets and wheelbarrows, shovels, rakes. We already had a tool shed, and we already had a riding lawnmower. So those are things that we personally already had before we even started the season. So these expenses that I'm going to talk about are strictly expenses that we incurred for products and things that we did not have in order to start this farm. So now, without further ado, our grand total was $10,994.66. That is a really big number. And like I said, you could probably start a flower farm with 1/10 of that. You could spend a couple hundred on seeds, a couple hundred on landscape fabric, a little bit on some cell trays and soil, and be on your way. But we just felt, we know that we want to do this long term. My husband's in the military. He's got 7 years left until retirement. We've always wanted to work together. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. We both love being outside. We love the grind of like long days. We love the summers here. They're super long. It gets light at around 5. It gets dark at around 10. So it seems like a perfect fit for us. So we know we want to do this long term. We knew that we were going to have to invest. We know that we're going to have to invest probably for the next 4 or 5 years until we can break even and start giving ourselves a paycheck. So this, even though it's a big number, we anticipated it. And again, that was all paid out of pocket unless it was put on a credit card, and then we paid it off immediately. So category 11, the first and least expensive category that we encountered was office supplies and planning the farm. So those things include a calendar. We ordered and paid for one catalog from Baker's Creek, and we bought grid paper and paper like this for taking notes, so note paper. We already had pens, pencils, rulers, tape, all of that stuff. So that total was $27.35. Category 10, the next least expensive category, was repairs and maintenance. So all we had to do was fill up the rototiller and the riding lawnmower this summer, and we had to replace the rototiller belt. Those were the only two expenses that we had, but they came to $76.87. Category 9 was $150.12, and actually it's not really a real category. It's miscellaneous. It is things that showed up on our card. They were at the hardware store or one of like the Home Depots, but we didn't really write down what things were purchased on that trip. So they're just in their own category. Hopefully we can eliminate that, but I think every season there's always just going to be a time where there's a couple swipes on the card. You know where you got the stuff, but you don't know what you got. And so that category kind of is a catch-all, $150.12. Not a huge expense, probably just, you know, run in to get a screw for something or a screwdriver or some sort of tool. But that's category 9. Category 8, okay, so we're getting a little bit more expensive, $210.98, and that was spent on wedding supplies. So I did 2 weddings last summer, and one of the weddings was really late, and I figured I probably wouldn't have enough flowers. So I did a lot of foraging the week before. But as I suspected, I didn't have any hoop houses, I don't have any row covers, I don't have any caterpillar tunnels, I don't have anything like that. So all of my flowers were good and dead. There were some things that I was able to get. There was a little bit of Queen Anne's lace, and there were still, gosh, I can't remember, maybe some willow and things like that that I foraged. But for the most part, I had to buy flowers for that event. And then I also was buying glassware and ribbon for the bridal bouquets. Category number 7. So just a little bit more expensive than the weddings was what I'm considering harvesting and bunching supplies. So that's category number 7, $289.35. That included rubber bands. I had labels with the farm name on there, craft paper that I bought from Uline, and it was like 2,000 or 3,000 pieces, 18 by 18 square papers. So that was kind of a larger expense, but it was cheaper to buy that many, and I know I'll go through them. So I was willing to make that, I was willing to pay that. And then a thorn stripper, which I never ended up using, 20 bucks that I could have saved, but it is what it is. Make sure I'm recording. Okay, where are we? So we just did harvesting and bunching. The next category. So this one is kind of goofy, but you have to consider the fact that you're going to be outside in all sorts of element. You're going to need things to protect your skin, your face, your hands. And so the next category is clothing and gear, and that came out to $300.87, category number 6. That included, I got like a fanny pack because I couldn't afford one of those really nice leather belt holders. I had garden gloves. I had a brimmed hat. I bought bogs, which are good boots for like mud and water, and they're actually pretty warm. And then I bought warm overalls because I was like really into it and thought I needed these, but I never ended up using them. So that would have been another $50, $75 I could have saved. So you'll see in some of these categories that I was a little bit overzealous, like really excited for the season. And there is probably a couple $100 that I could have saved here and there. But for the most part, I really stuck to our plan of just buying the essentials and getting the farm started. Category number 5 is small tools. That included all of our floral shears and snips. We did buy small little butane tanks in a packet of 3, and a trigger start that was for doing the landscape fabric and burning the holes in that. We bought a measuring tape so that we could have nice straight rows, but also to see how many rows we could get. It wasn't theory based. We really needed to measure the space. So we got like a 300-foot tape measure. It was super cheap, like 25 bucks or something. We also bought a hoop bender from Johnny's because we knew that we wanted to do the hoops and the fiberglass and the netting. And then we got a folding table, and that was kind of just for seed starting, and a floral shears sharpener. So that was super important to our season, keeping everything nice and sharp so that we could make those nice sharp cuts and not like crush the stem as we were cutting and harvesting. I don't know if I read that total, but that was $328.04, and that was category number 5. And then from the 300s, now we're jumping into the thousands. So all of those categories, 5 and below, were pretty inexpensive in and of themselves, but now we're starting to get to the pretty expensive stuff. I had no experience with gardening, growing things, business, marketing. So I thought it would be in my best interest to purchase a workshop, and I did decide to go with the Florat workshop, and it has been invaluable. It is really good. It is really thorough. As a new grower, it was a lot, and so I am taking the course again this year, and even just watching some of those videos, I'm learning and retaining more, and a lot more of it makes sense. But I do have access to these videos for life, so for me it was a very good investment. I know it's going to shave years and years and years off of trial and error to the same extent. Of course, we're going to have trial and error because we're in a different zone, different climate, different weather, different flowers, but for the most part, I think it has helped tremendously in terms of how I want to grow this business, what I want it to look like, laying out the business, laying out the farm plan, all of those things. So it has been invaluable. I also bought some books, and then my husband and I attended a garden expo last February, and that was really tailored to Zone 5 Wisconsin gardening. There was a lot of companies and businesses that had lots of insight and tools to offer us, and that was really great. So we attended that. That's all part of the education category, and that was $1,757.14. So not a cheap investment, but for me, a tremendous amount of value. Now we're in the top 3. Third most expensive category for our farm this year was field supplies, $1,815.23. Field supplies included landscape fabric, zip ties, poly twine, Hortonova netting, the earth staples that hold the fabric down, wooden field stakes for our tulips, the EMT conduit that we use, 10 foot, 1.5 inch, that we bent for the hoops, for netting all of our flowers, and then fiber rods, so those hoops slide onto fiber rods. We bought those for field supplies, and then we bought a 2,000 foot irrigation kit. So that all together, again, $1,815.27. Next, category number 2, and that is seedling supplies. So that came out to $2,171.63. My advice, and I'm gonna do a top 10 mistakes of our first year growing. Go with one company, and then they'll tell you right on their website, this tray fits in here, or go to your local garden center and you can buy the kits or whatever together. I did buy some bulb crates. I didn't end up using them for growing tulips or lilies or anything like that, but I did end up using them to carry and transport all of the wedding stuff, so they did come in handy. I just bought them from a local nursery that was going out of business, so I got a really good deal. I got potting soil. Of course, you're gonna need that to start all your seeds in. I use vermiculite sprinkled across the top. That helps with moisture. I've also started to use vermiculite this year for storing my dahlia tubers, so I'm gonna see if that works out. If it does, I use the coarse vermiculite from my local garden center. Of course, you need shelving units, and if you use any type of fertilizer like seaweed or fish emulsion or something like that, I used that last year. I found it super helpful. Heat mats, grow lights, soil blocker, watering cans. Those are all things that you're gonna need if you are planning on starting your seeds in your basement. If you have a greenhouse or something like that, then you are very lucky. It's something that we're hoping to get in the future, but we have to start all of ours down in the basement, and so we do need all of those supplies. Again, second highest category, $2,171.63. And then the most expensive category. If you haven't guessed it yet, I'll tell you. It's the seeds and the bulbs and the corms and the tubers that you will be growing for your flower business. That expense is always going to be split between annual flowers that you're kind of buying to grow that year, and then bulbs and things like that that you're going to plan on growing for the next year, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why that category is so big. But I got for 2022 $1,233.52, and the things that I got for 2023 $2,601.39. So a couple thousand there for seeds and corms, but that's it. That's everything. Those are the 11 categories that I spent in this year. My advice is, when you are buying things, save the receipt, write it down in a notebook, put it in your computer. I was able to log most of the stuff because I had purchased it in the winter and early spring when it's still really slow. So I was able to make notes, but I like to see what categories are the most expensive when I'm spending my money, so that I can anticipate, okay, am I gonna have the money? Am I gonna have to front this? Am I gonna have to put it on a credit card? What are our anticipated expenses? I can refer to this and say, okay, well, we spent $4,000 on seeds and corms, so I know I'm gonna have to spend that next year, if not more, because as we grow our business, that's gonna be a key expense. I just really like to keep a tally of this stuff. I like to keep an ongoing list. I think it's super, super important. This is your business. I'm not giving financial advice here. I am not a financial guru. I don't have a degree in it. I don't teach it. none of those things. But this is my business. I need to know those numbers. It's not just between my spouse and my tax accountant and other people. It is my business to know, and I think a profitable, successful business, you have to know the numbers. I know it's really unsettling sometimes to have to look at those numbers and face it, or to maybe admit to yourself that maybe I'm overspending in a category that I don't need to right now. Maybe when I go to order these things, I need a list, and I can't deviate from that list. That's one of the things that really helped me this year. I saved probably $100 just on shipping and handling by not having to continuously go back and order from companies. I took a list at all the things that they had to offer for this year. I made a list. I compared all the lists of the different companies that I ordered from together and decided on my final cut. And yes, I had to cut some things because we don't have enough space. We don't have enough time. It's not feasible for me to tend to a half an acre worth of flowers. I have to keep mine to what I can do. And so going into next year, I can anticipate what we're going to spend. That's another benefit. I can anticipate that I have about $4,500 left of things that I need to purchase yet for 2023 growing season. So it kind of can help you set goals. How are we going to make that money next year? And that's probably what we'll talk about in the third video from here. So stick around. The next video is going to be on income, what we earned last year, how we earned it, and then the last video in this series, of course, is going to be our goals for 2023. What avenues do we plan on selling to? How much are we planning on earning from each of those categories? And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting series. Hopefully we'll be able to do this every single year. Like I said, until year 5 and we start actually being able to give ourselves a paycheck, then probably we'll keep those numbers private. But until then, I really hope this is helpful, or at least gives you something to look at or to consider. If you're starting a flower farm or a small business, numbers are important, spending is important, income is important, and just having a good grasp and planning all of that stuff, I think will really help you. I think it's going to really help me, definitely, our business move forward, to grow and to become profitable and sustainable. And if that means we have to grow slowly because we're working within a budget and we're not overspending and we're not going into debt, then so be it. I think businesses that grow slow on solid foundations have the ability to stand the test of time. So anyways, thanks for sticking around. If you made it this far, thanks so much. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.